Hey, welcome. You ever feel like you're performing some kind of magic in the kitchen? Transforming ingredients with just a little bit of heat or a quick whisk? Well, it turns out it's not magic at all. It's science. And today we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most amazing chemical reactions that you probably do every single day.
It all kicks off with a really simple question. We've all seen this happen a million times, right? You crack an egg into a hot pan, and that clear, kind of gooey stuff just transforms. It becomes solid, it becomes white. But what is really going on there? What's the secret?
Well, the answer to the great egg mystery, and honestly so much more, it all comes down to one single powerful concept. It's called protein denaturation, and trust me, once you get what this is, you're going to start seeing it absolutely everywhere.
So what in the world is it? Okay, I want you to picture a protein as this incredibly complex, perfectly folded piece of origami. It has a very specific 3D shape, and that shape is what lets it do its job. Denaturation is just the process of unfolding that origami. The paper is still there, all in one piece, but it's lost its intricate shape, and because of that, it's lost its function.
And this is the key thing to remember. It's a really important distinction. The protein's basic structure, that long chain of amino acids, which is like the paper in our origami analogy, it stays completely intact. We're not tearing the paper, we're just undoing all those careful folds.
Just to make this crystal clear, let's look at it side by side. Denaturation, on the left, is all about losing that 3D shape, but the core chain is untouched. Something else, a totally different process, would be to actually break the bonds holding that chain together. That's way more destructive. So the big takeaway is simple: unfolded, not destroyed.
Okay, so if proteins are these delicate folded structures, what are the things that cause them to unfold? Well, it turns out there are a bunch of powerful triggers, and you probably have almost all of them in your kitchen right now.
First up, the big one, the most common culprit: heat. This is the one we all know, whether we're grilling a steak or, you guessed it, cooking an egg. So how does it work? Well, heat is just energy, right? It makes all the atoms in the protein start vibrating like crazy. And that vibration gets so intense that it breaks all the weak little bonds that were holding the protein in its folded shape. And that brings us right back to our egg. The albumin protein in the egg white unfolds, gets all tangled up with its neighbors, and goes from a clear liquid to a solid white. Mystery solved.
All right, next on the list, another kitchen staple: acids and bases. Just changing the pH of a protein's environment is another surefire way to make it change its shape. See, acids and bases mess with the positive and negative charges that help keep a protein folded just so. A perfect example of this is making cheese. When you add an acid, like lemon juice or vinegar, to milk, the milk proteins, called casein, they denature and clump together. That forms the solid curds that become cheese.
Okay, this next one might actually surprise you. You can denature a protein just by beating it up. I'm serious, mechanical force is a huge trigger. The physical act of whisking or beating literally pulls and stretches those protein molecules, forcing them to unfold. As they unfold, they get tangled up and create a network that can trap tiny air bubbles. And this is exactly what's happening when you whisk egg whites for a meringue. You're denaturing the proteins to create that beautiful, stable, stiff-peaked foam. And finally, let's talk about one more chemical agent: alcohol. It's not just for happy hour. It's also a really powerful tool for denaturation. A lot like heat, alcohol works by getting in there and messing up that delicate network of bonds holding a protein together. This causes the proteins to clump up and become useless. And here's a real-world example you use all the time: hand sanitizer. That's how it works. The alcohol denatures the essential proteins that bacteria and viruses need to survive, which is what kills them. Okay, so we know how to unfold a protein. But what happens after that? What's the new reality for that protein? Because once it's unfolded, it usually can't just fold itself back up. The change is permanent, and it has some really noticeable consequences. It really boils down to three big changes. First, they lose solubility. Think about it. A cooked egg white isn't going to dissolve in water. Second, their texture changes dramatically. They firm up, they thicken, they get solid. And third, and this is crucial, they lose their biological function. An enzyme that's been denatured is like a key that's been bent out of shape. It just doesn't work anymore. But wait, it's not all about loss and destruction. There is a huge, often overlooked benefit to all this unfolding, especially when we're talking about the food we eat.
So here's why this is so important for us. When proteins are all tightly folded up, it can be really tough for our digestive enzymes to get in there and break them down. But when we cook our food, we denature, we unfold those proteins first. This basically lays the whole amino acid chain out flat, giving our enzymes easy access to chop it up so our bodies can absorb all those amazing nutrients way more efficiently.
So, the big takeaway here is that this isn't some high-level chemistry concept you only see in a lab. Now that you know what you're looking for, you'll realize you have been an expert at protein denaturation this whole time.
I mean, just think about cooking a piece of meat. As you heat it, you are denaturing the muscle proteins, myosin and actin. That is literally why the meat firms up, why it squeezes out water, and why it changes from pink and translucent to brown and opaque. You're watching denaturing happen right on your grill.
And what about dairy? We already talked about cheese, right? Where acid unfolds milk proteins to form curds. Well, the exact same thing is happening with yogurt. Little bacteria produce lactic acid. That acid denatures the milk proteins, and they tangle up to create that thick, creamy texture we all love. So from this moment on, all these everyday things are gonna look a little different. Whether you're frying that egg, making a marinade with lemon juice, or just cleaning your hands, you'll know the invisible science that's hard at work.
It really is one of these fundamental processes of our world. It's the invisible transformation that makes our food delicious and digestible. And it's the very same process that protects us from germs. It's chemistry you can see, feel, and even taste.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. If a process as huge and transformative as cooking can be explained by something as simple as unfolding, it really makes you wonder what other incredible, invisible transformations are hiding right there in plain sight, just waiting for us to notice. Something to chew on. Thanks for joining me.